And let's dive straight into the topic. CA testes. One disclosure I would like to make that almost everything I will cover is from Campbell. What is not in Campbell, I will mention. So first of all, according to me, the most important thing in oncology is the basics. Basics start with the TNM classification. I know that most of you are aware, but let us still revise. Okay, so this is CA testis, and the T classification, TX is primary tumor cannot be assessed, T0 is no evidence of primary tumor, TIS is intratubular germ cell neoplasia. This was previously known as ITGCN, that is intratubular germ cell neoplasia, which has recently been changed to GCNIS in the year 2018. So kindly make note. T1, PT1 is tumor limited to testes and epididymis without vascular or lymphatic invasion. Tumor may invade into tunica albuginea but not into tunica vaginalis. T2 is tumor limited to testes and epididymis with vascular lymphatic invasion or extending through tunica albuginea with involvement of tunica vaginalis. T3 is integrates the spermatic cord and T4 into the scrotum. Renal lymph nodes, N1 is less than 2 centimeter. That is a single metastasis with lymph node less than 2 centimeter in greatest dimension, or multiple but none more than 2. N2 is more than 2 but less than 5, and only any one mass more than 2 centimeter but not more than 5, and N3 is more than 5. This is the clinical classification. This is the pathological, where in pathological, here they have mentioned the number of nodes. So here it becomes less than 5 nodes positive for N1, for N2 more than 5 nodes positive, and N3 is more than 5 centimeter. You need to go through this again, but what I want to really specify on is the difference between the clinical and pathological nodal staging. Metastasis is M0 is no distant mets, M1 is distant mets present, of which M1A is non-regional nodal or pulmonary mets. Okay, please remember, lung is good. Okay, so M1A is lung, that is pulmonary, or non-regional nodal. Okay, and M1B is distant met sites other than non-regional lymph nodes or lung. So apart from the lung and the non-regional nodes, it is M1B. From our general surgery teaching, we all know that testicular tumor is one of those rare unique tumors which has, apart from TNM, a S classification also added to it, because serum tumor markers play a major role in categorizing the grouping and the staging of the disease. So these serum tumor markers are LDH, AFP, and HCG. So based on that, the classification is done. So S1 is LDH less than 1.5 into normal, HCG less than 5,000, AFP less than 1,000. This in S2 becomes 1.5 to 10, HCG up to 50,000, AFP up to 10,000, and above all this becomes S3. Out of all the tumors in urology, you need to know the staging in testicular tumor at least, okay, by default, because whatever, even whenever you discuss the management will be based on staging, this staging, this one. Okay, it is not based on the TNM. I mean, it is obviously based on TNM, but the staging will determine the treatment. Okay, so it is easy. Let's go through it. Stage 1 is divided into 1A and 1B. 1A is T1, N0, M0, S0. Okay, the plainest, simplest of tumors. Okay, TIS is in stage 0. Just see this. Okay, and stage 1B is T2, T3, T4, N0, M0, S0. whereas 1S is NET N0M0 S1 to S3. As stage 2A is stage 2 is divided into 2A, 2B, 2C, which is nothing but N1, N2, N3. And stage 3 is divided into 3A, 3B, 3C, which is divided into 3A is M1A and S1, 3B is M1A, S2 and N1 to N3, and stage 3C is N1 to N3 and M1B and NES. Okay. So a bit of confusion might happen here, but do not worry. The treatment for 2C and stage 3 is same. 2C and the entire stage 3 is same. So what you need to know actually is stage 1, stage 2A, 2B, stage 2C and 3. Generally the treatment is divided into this. You might feel I'm going a bit slow, but please understand this is very important. All right. So out of all the testicular neoplasms, more than 95% are germ cell tumors, of which 95% arise in the testes. Broadly, germ cell tumors can be divided into seminoma and non-seminoma. And if they are cisplatin responsive, then it's a great thing. Okay. Obviously, you guys will take up urology, learn so much, and I'm telling you, testicular tumor is a wonderful tumor in the sense that it has been cited as a tumor which should, which should be cited as a landmark for treating cancer. What I mean is, it is one of those cancers in which cure is possible, and they say that in oncology, this testicular tumor should be considered as a landmark in order to learn how to cure cancer, not control, cure. Okay. So if it is cisplatin responsive, it's great. It can even be cured. So much to the extent that the long-term survival in metastatic GCT is up to 90%. However, mortality does occur. And when does that occur? When it is not cisplatin responsive, or when in the initial course of the disease, failure to fully eradicate the residual elements in the early course of the therapy. We'll first go for germ cell tumors. We'll look into the epidemiology, risk factors, pathogenesis, biology, and the various histologies. So it is the most common male solid malignancy from the age of 20 to 40 years. Which one? Germ cell tumors. Okay. The incidence of bilateral germ cell tumors is 2%, and most of them are metachronous. And the average interval between this bilaterality is 5 years. Okay. Bilateral GCT 2%, of which majority are metachronous. How many of them? 1.5%. Why? Because 0.5% are synchronous. So 0.5% synchronous, 1.5% metachronous. These figures might vary a bit because in the earlier edition, which we read and gave the exam, stated 1.6% as metachronous and 0.9% synchronous. But in your recent edition, 2% and 0.5% is given. Incidence is high in Caucasians and less in African Americans, and epidemiology wise, 13% present with distant metastatic disease at presentation. What are the risk factors? White race, cryptorchidism, family history of testicular cancer, personal history of testicular cancer, and germ cell neoplasia in situ. Okay. So cryptorchidism is one area where if a patient has cryptorchidism, the risk is 4 to 6 times. If the patient gets operated, undergoes orchidopexy for that, then the risk reduces but does not become 0. It becomes 2 to 3 times. If PEXY is performed before puberty, if after puberty, the risk does not reduce. One more thing you should know is if a patient undergoes surgery, okay, that is in a cryptorchid testis, there is a higher chance of development of seminoma. If a patient undergoes PEXY, there is a higher chance of development of non-seminoma. So germ cell neoplasia in situ. I'm starting discussion of germ cell tumors now, starting with germ cell neoplasia in situ. Broadly, you should know that GCNIS is a precursor lesion for most GCTs. Okay, it is a precursor lesion. Most of the germ cell tumors arise from germ cell neoplasia in situ, as the word suggests, except spermatocytic tumor, prepubertal GCTs, ovarian cystic teratomas, and dermoid. Of these, spermatocytic tumors is the most important. This was previously known as spermatocytic seminoma. But to avoid the confusion and to avoid taking the name seminoma, they have removed the name seminoma. This is now known as spermatocytic tumors. Small things, small changes have been made, and examiners might be particularly interested in asking the changes. What is the risk of GCT if a patient has GCNIS? It is 50% in 5 years and 70% in 7 years. On microscopy, they appear like undifferentiated germ cells, which ultimately look like seminoma and are located basally in the seminiferous tubules. As such, the presence of these GCNIS has no prognostic implication. Okay, that is, if you remove a if you remove a cancerous, like if you remove a seminoma, let's say if a cancerous testis, and it has seminoma in it, and rest of the cells have GCNIS in it, it does not have any prognostic implication. That what I mean by that is, it does not suggest anything whether the opposite side will become involved in so many years or anything. All right. I hope everybody like it's clear, because I heard a disturbance. Can I continue?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is the treatment? Treatment is orchidectomy, low dose radiotherapy, or close observation. Of this, orchidectomy is the choice of therapy. Why? Because you remove it and the cells are removed. Low dose radiotherapy should be at least 20 gray. Okay. The problem with low dose therapy is that it will be concentrated on the perineal area, and the opposite side testis might also get involved. So generally not preferred. These treatment of GCNS are dependent upon patient factors. Patient factors like whether the patient is going to become, is already married, has kids, he's looking for another child, all right, and what is the age of the patient, etc. Whether all those things have to be taken into consideration. Uh, in 2016, WHO released a new classification of testicular neoplasm, in which overall you can see that it is divided into germ cell tumors derived from GCNIS and germ cell tumors unrelated to GCNIS. That is, this is germ cell tumors, and then sex cord stromal tumors. In GCNIS derived, as we said, seminoma, non-seminoma, choriocarcinoma, teratoma, etc. Germ cell tumors unrelated to germ cell neoplasia in situ are spermatocytic tumor, dermoid cyst, epidermoid cysts, etc. And sex cord stromal tumors include all the Sertoli cell, Leydig cell, granulosa cell, etc. Now, how does a carcinoma testis occur? So, arrested gonocytes, also known as primordial germ cells, fail to differentiate into pre-spermatogonia. So, arrest occurs during differentiation, and these lead to GCNIS. Extra copy of short arm of chromosome 12 appearing as an isochromosome is seen. Okay, this is an important genetic evaluation which might be found in patients with GA testis. We know that 5% post-pubertal GCTs are extragonadal, because 95% are limited to testes. 5% are extragonadal. And of these 5%, most of them develop in the midline, that is in the retroperitoneum or mediastinum. In seminoma, the prognosis of testicular germ cell tumor is equal to that of retroperitoneal primary equal to mediastinal primary. Okay, but in non-seminomatous germ cell tumors, the prognosis of testicular primary and retroperitoneal germ cell tumor is similar. But if it is mediastinal, the prognosis is much worse. Okay. In mediastinal non-seminomatous germ cell tumors, the prognosis is poor. Why? Because they are less sensitive to chemotherapy. The 5-year survival is about 45%, and these are more likely to have yolk sac components and are associated with Klinefelters and hematologic malignancies with elevations in alpha-fetoprotein. So again and again, we are coming to this, that is germ cell tumor histologies. We'll be taking up uh, each one of them independently. I finished GCNIs, now I'm going to seminoma. Seminoma is the most common type of germ cell tumor seen in the incidence in the 4th to 5th decade. This is the cut section. What do you see? You see a soft, tan, diffuse multinodular mass lesion. Okay. Seminoma consists of 15% syncytial trophoblast. That means 15% of seminomas produce HCG. All right. In the EAU classification, they say 40%. But again, I said that I'll be limiting myself to Campbell. So 15% of seminomas produce HCG. Microscopically, they appear like sheet-like arrangement of cells with polygonal nuclei and clear cytoplasm. These are CD30 negative, CD117 positive, and PLAP strongly positive. What is PLAP? Placental alkaline phosphatase. Seminoma has an ability to transform into non-seminomatous germ cell tumors. Okay. One point I want to make here is, generally, if you talk about serum tumor markers, only LDH is generally raised. LDH indicates in seminoma. LDH indicates the bulk of the tumor, or the so it indicates the bulk of the tumor. HCG is raised in 15%. But if AFP is raised and your histology of orchidectomy is seminoma, it is still considered non-seminoma. AFP is never raised in seminoma. AFP is never raised in seminoma. Please remember this. AFP is never raised in seminoma. If AFP is raised in seminoma, then it is non-seminomatous germ cell tumor. Coming to spermatocytic tumors, spermatocytic tumor, as we said, does not arise from GCNIS. It constitutes less than 1% of germ cell tumors. That is, it is rare and occurs in the 6th decade of life. It is benign and does not arise from GCNIS. So what do you mean? Like, how is it different? It is different because in relation to cryptorchidism, bilaterality, isochromosome 12p, as a part of mixed GCT, stain for PLAP glycol, it does not happen. So these spermatocytic tumors do not bear these characteristics, which are borne by other non-seminomatous and seminomatous germ cell tumors. Okay, so there is no relation with cryptorchidism, bilaterality, isochromosome, etc. And it is virtually cured with orchidectomy. A rare condition known as spermatocytic tumor with sarcoma is a metastatic condition and a very advanced neoplastic condition, which is just poor prognosis. So otherwise, spermatocytic tumor is benign. Only this spermatocytic tumor with sarcoma, which is rare, is having poor prognosis. Embryonal carcinoma, as you have noticed, I have put this in red. What is it? Why? Because embryonal carcinoma has this word embryo. What does it mean? It means the initial stage of a fetus, which has so many thousands of undifferentiated cells. So the way to remember this is an embryonal carcinoma will have undifferentiated malignant cells with pleomorphic nuclei, and obviously because these are undifferentiated, they are aggressive and it has a high rate of METs. It is the most undifferentiated type of non-seminomatous germ cell tumor, has a protein potential capacity to differentiate to other non-seminomatous germ cell types, including teratoma within primary or even at the metastatic sites. It is positive for AE1, AE3, PLAP, OCT3 and 4. c-KIT is negative. Choriocarcinoma. Choriocarcinoma is a disseminated disease in which beta HCG is raised, and generally presentation happens at stage 3C, that is, which is poor risk. And generally these patients have non-pulmonary organ mets. So it is a disseminated disease. HCG will be in the level of more than 1 lakh, etc. And patients are generally presenting at a late stage. Spread happens by blood, unlike other tumors, other GCTs, which spread by lymphatics. Okay, so by blood it goes to lungs, liver, and brain. Microscopically, you can see syncytial trophoblast and cytotrophoblast. It is from the syncytial trophoblast that beta HCG is released. And this cancer is known for hemorrhage. It is so vascular that hemorrhage can happen, which can happen spontaneously or after chemotherapy is initiated, and such bleed can be fatal. Okay, if the bleed happens in lungs or brain and you start chemotherapy, and patient can die. So one more thing, these patients, I hope you know that beta, it's that HCG has two units like alpha and beta. Why do we consider beta? Because the alpha, like as a marker of this tumor, because alpha subunit is similar to the LH and TSH. So because of this similarity of the alpha subunit, there is a cross reaction happening by, and this alpha subunit will result in hyperthyroidism and increased androgen production. So this choriocarcinoma patient will have hormonal disturbances as a result of the beta, as a result of the alpha unit of the HCG. Then comes yolk sac tumor. It is also known as endodermal sinus tumor. One MCQ that might be asked is Schiller-Duval bodies. Okay. It is the most common in mediastinal and pediatric germ cell tumors. Microscopically, these are small cuboidal cells with extracytoplasmic eosinophilic hyaline-like globules, which grow in a glandular, papillary, or microcystic pattern. And in 50% of the cases, you see Schiller-Duval bodies in microscopy. Always produce AFP, but not HCG. Teratoma. Teratoma, we all know, like always think of what you know from UG days. What is teratoma? Teratoma is those cell elements, which mixture of cell elements, like hair, cartilage, bone, etc. That is what we remember. So, but you need to know the definition. What is it? The definition is well-differentiated or incompletely differentiated elements of at least 2 of 3 germ cell layers. That is endodermal, mesodermal, and ectodermal. At least 2 of these 3 should be present. They can be mature and immature, but clinically speaking, it has no significance. If they are well differentiated, they are called mature. If they are incompletely differentiated, it is called immature. Okay. These teratomas have solid and cystic areas within them, and so most importantly, this is histologically benign but genetically unstable. Okay, the fluid from the teratoma will also contain AFP and HCG and all those things. So they are histologically benign but genetically unstable, found at metastatic sites in advanced non-segmental germ cell tumor, and are resistant to chemotherapy. They have a capacity to grow rapidly or undergo malignant transformation of its elements to form a non-germ cell tumor somatic malignancy. So in particular, they are benign. They are benign histologically, but its own cells, they have this ability to transform into some other malignancy, which we'll see later. Okay. It has unpredictable biology, which is the most important problem with teratoma. So if it is resistant to chemotherapy, the only way out is to do a surgical resection. It is called as a consolidative surgical resection after you give chemotherapy. Okay. So a consolidative surgical resection is performed for residual masses after chemotherapy at metastatic sites in advanced non-segmental germ cell tumors in order to remove the teratomatous elements. These teratomas harbor genetic abnormalities which are found in malignant germ cell elements like aneuploidy, chromosome I12p, and has proliferative capacity. The cystic fluid from teratoma can contain HCG and AFP. And now the 2 major issues with teratoma: conversion to GTS. This is GTS, that is growing teratoma syndrome, which is a problem of uncontrolled growth and invasion of surrounding structures. It's like a huge mass which causes compression in the surrounding regions. And conversion to somatic malignancies, mainly rhabdomyosarcoma, adenocarcinoma, or primitive neuroectodermal tumor. So these are the 2 issues, major issues with teratoma, and these are highly aggressive, resistant to conventional chemo, and associated with poor prognosis. These malignancies, when they happen, that is some conversion to somatic malignancy from a teratoma, are highly aggressive and do not respond to conventional chemotherapy. Signs and symptoms. These are signs and so we are done with the germ cell tumors and their histologies. Now we are coming to general testicular mass. So the most common presentation is the patient presents with a painless testicular mass. And what you need to know is that a solid intratesticular mass in a post-pubertal male should be considered as germ cell tumor until proven otherwise. Very important. It should be your first differential diagnosis whenever you see a solid intratesticular mass in a post-pubertal male. At diagnosis, many patients present with regional mets or even distant mets, and the symptoms due to these mets are present in 10 to 20% patients only. As a result of the various problems occurring as a result of hormonal disturbances from the HCG due to in choriocarcinoma and in 15% cases of seminoma, gynecomastia can happen. However, gynecomastia is not seen routinely because choriocarcinoma itself is not very common, and HCG is not that much raised in seminoma. Okay, 2/3 patients have diminished fertility, but is not a presenting complaint generally. Okay, so regional or distant mets diagnosis is present in 15%. In seminoma, 15% present with such presentation, and almost 66% of non-seminal germ cell tumors have renal or distant mets diagnosis. So, how do you diagnose? Sometimes you don't feel like it is a testicular tumor, and you feel like it is epithelioma or orchitis. So you reevaluate within 2 to 4 weeks after giving a course of antibiotics. 1/3 are misdiagnosed as epididymitis or hydrocele, and they undergo transscrotal surgery, which is disastrous. So it is important to consider the diagnosis of germ cell tumor in any male 15 to 50 years with a firm testicular mass, and retrobacterial mass, or a you need to use apart from your hands, you need to use some radiological investigations. Ultrasound is a wonderful tool because it is a surface tumor. You use high frequency transducers of 5 to 10 megahertz, and ecotexture wise, you see homogeneous, which is generally seminoma, and if you see heterogeneous mass, it is non-seminoma. Machine, you have a Doppler, you do a Doppler, and there can be an increased blood flow within the lesion, which can suggest malignancy, but its absence doesn't exclude germ cell tumor. Germ cell tumor. And a normal testicular examination, what do? A burned out primary testicular tumor. That is, it is a small impalpable scar or a calcified small nodule-like lesion in the testes that is not identified on examination, but here the ultrasound will pick it up. So the malignancy risk increases with the size of the lesion. So if the lesion is less than 1 centimeter, 50%, it and increases to 80% for lesions 1 to 2 centimeters. But in clinical medicine, you always have diagnostic dilemma when there are things do not match. There is not a